8 rings of Draupnir now. Look past your skin and see the law. The heavy hammer and the shining thread. The Nornir are near. So let the music ring.
Look to the well where Urðr sits deep. The old law of ages that the still waters keep. This fixed Orlog is the stone in the ground. The dead of your fathers, the fate that is bound. It shapes your first breath, your pain and your prize. The fate that is set that you can't disguise.
The time still moves forward, sometimes it's height. The present is active, the moment of light. The Nornir are weaving their fingers so quick. The thread of the moment, the fate you can pick.
This flow is the wind, the chance to create, to choose what you build on the ground of your fate. Use your hunger to watch where the pattern will fall and answer the great universal call. So stand up, my heroes, and master the art. For every small action will tear or impart. You work out your win, you stand in the present. The choices you make are the gift of the peasant. With Haminya's fortune and all this clear fire, you build up the future or burn on the pyre. The Orlog is the limit, the win is the race. Go forth with your soul and determine your place. The 8 rings of Draupnir are ready to spin, to pierce through the darkness and let the light in. Your future will guide, your spirit will know the wisdom to act, the seed that will grow. You must be the whole self, you cannot be small. You must be complete, you must answer the call. Your action today makes a layer that's new. The Orlog of tomorrow depends upon you.
Remember the weird web spreads far and wide. Your thread touches others, there's nowhere to hide. It binds human fate to the spirits of home, to the land fetters favor wherever you roam. So live with true honor, let no weakness be shown. For the debt of your action is never your own. If you break sacred promise, the web will lament. If you keep it with strength, the cosmos is descend.
So stand up, my heroes, and master the art. For every small action will tear or impart. You work out your weird, you stand in the present. The choices you make are the gift of the peasant. With dreaming your fortune and know this clear fire, you build up the future or burn on the pyre. The Orlog is the limit, the wind is the race. Go forth with your soul and determine your place. The well keeps the past, the loom keeps the motion. You are the sailor upon the deep ocean, the fixed and the flowing, forever they bind the fate of all folk and the path of mankind. The Orlog is written, the word is your charge. Take the shuttle and we are. Shuttle and we.
Yeah, audio problems. All right, welcome. Hope you guys all had a great week. We're going to go into something that is a little abstract, and it's a little more difficult to put into perspective because it kind of bends the reality of what we're normally used to with laws. And I think I need to adjust the mic just a little. I'm seeing it kind of go in and out on the green, so give me 1 second. Right there. All right, we'll see if that works. It'll go a little yellow, so I'll just try to not talk too loud. Anyways, so we're going over the Wyrd and the Orlog. So this is going to be, it's going to involve the Norns and the Well, and its laws of things that you cannot avoid that have been in the past. They are set in stone. And then the things of the present, which you can impact for the future, that then dictates what your new Orlog of the past will then have. Kind of complicated. So I'm going to go over the reference. Y'all can see right here. I'm going to go with Orlog. It's the primal law of fate or ancestral inheritance. It represents the fixed, unchangeable conditions, actions, and consequences set by the past. Pretty straightforward. Wyrd, the dynamic law of casualty or the active destiny. I want you guys to bear with me. I have been up for, where are we at? 23 hours. So it's been a rough week too. So I might seem a little tired. I'm pretty tired. So anyways, Wyrd, the dynamic law of casualty. Wyrd, the dynamic law of casualty or active destiny. It is the current active thread being woven on the loom of the present moment by present choices and actions. I'll go more into that. The Well of Urðr, the repository of Orlog. The well, located beneath Yggdrasil, it holds the final fixed judgment of all past actions and feels the ongoing creation of the Wyrd. That's base description. I'm just going to run right through these. I don't know how much I'm going to use the actual thread lesson, so we'll see. Anyways, the Urðr Brunner, God, that is so difficult for me to say. The collective name of the three Norns, Urðr, Verðandi, Skuld, who govern all fate. They carve the destiny of all beings into the bark of Yggdrasil. So they carve the runes of our destiny, of our fate. If that makes any sense. I'm sure it probably does, because most people who follow this path understand what we're talking about there. So working your Wyrd. This is another thing. Down here. The philosophical goal of the Norse path, it means consciously using your hugr and haminga, or hug, depending on which way you want to pronounce it, to choose actions that actively shape your present thread of destiny against the weight of Orlog, the past laws, like past interactions, past luck, inheritance, what brought you to this moment. Weaving the thread, the mechanism by which Wyrd is created. Every action, the warp, interacts with the fixed past, the weft of Orlog, to weave a new, irreversible pattern into the present. All right, so that's the basic overview. If you're wondering where all the extra words came from, there's this document in the description below that y'all can follow along with. There's also a song, which was the first song that you guys listened to. That's also in the description. There's also the Discord, which is, this Discord belongs to Jason Savage on the YouTube channel of How to Heathen. So his links are down below as well. There's a 30-day link for his Discord. A lot of people in the community. Highly recommend joining it. And then we have, I cannot believe I messed this up twice already. I kept meaning to, and I forget to do this. So I'm going to, third time's the charm. This whiteboard and everything written on it is thanks to my wife, because y'all want to be able to read my handwriting. Straight up. So we have her to thank for all of that, and I don't think there's anything else I need to cover on any of that. So let's go over Orlog. Orlog, the primary layer. The word Orlog, Old Norse, Yorlog, is powerful, translating to Urlaw, UR-law, right? Urlaw, or first layer. It is the profound fixed essence of the past, the imprint of necessity that structures all of existence. Orlog is not simply a record of events, it's those events having been compressed into an unyielding law. Imagine the universe beginning as a formless potential, The Orlog is a history of all choices made since that potential was first actualized. So, basically, the things that your ancestors did, the things that you're currently doing, all affect your Orlog. It's your eventual outcome of where you're at. So it's kind of like, say, reputation, right? So say you were to, I don't know, if you have kids and you take them to a daycare, right? You might be the best dad in the world. I'm going to use me as an example. But this is not a real life example. I don't take my kid to daycare because my beautiful wife does the amazing duty of raising her child. So anyways, hypothetical. You're a dude, you take your kid to daycare, and you can be great and amazing. Everybody thinks you're an amazing dad, but then you have that one moment where, the kid's just on your last nerve, and you're like, ugh. And right before you get in there, you snap on your kid. And you're just screaming at him because, you just can't take it anymore. Well, guess what? All the parents inside, all the kids inside, the staff inside, they see it. You just damaged your reputation. And from here on out, everybody's going to be like, that dude yelled at his kid. He's a bad dad. You now have that Orlog stuck to you. This concept will connect very close to your Fjölga and your Haminga. Very, very put together. And what I mean by that is, let me pull up something I wrote really quick on my phone here. So it's the trust, say like privilege, right? A lot of people just think, they just have something granted to. Privilege in reality is just the concept of, your ancestors did something really well, put you better off, and like say a trust fund kid, right? They're like, yeah, woohoo, I got all this money, but it was great grandpa that did all the work, made the trust fund, and passed through the family lineage, and everybody took care of it. And then you got to the trust fund kid, and you got to dictate how it goes. Your Fjölga is going to be basically like the security guard and transaction reporter to the Haminga which is like of the trust fund, right? I don't know if that made any sense at all. So it's like Fjölga, your security guard, and it says, hey, this guy's doing something funny. I'm going to go report that to the Haminga. Who's the Haminga? The Haminga is the trust fund accountant. That's the person who's responsible for saying, we need to protect this money. What are we going to do? So if the Fjölga tells the Haminga, this dude's doing bad stuff, the Haminga is going to be like, well, I guess we need to kick that kid out. So now that kid doesn't have that luck. Well, how does that interact? Well, now you created a new Orlog of your past that now affects the rest of your future. Doesn't have that luck. Well, how does that interact? Well, now you created a new Orlog of your past that now affects the rest of your future and the future of your children. Does that make sense? It's the actions of now that impact the future and forever staying on the past. So there's that. And it impacts more just your immediate self, right? So all of us that live in America, and even people that live in Great Britain, pretty much the entire world now at this point, were impacted by the actions of a couple dudes, our founding fathers of America, George Washington, and all the others that did it. They impacted our future. That is part of our Orlog. It's very far distant in the web, but it's still there. And this kind of ties in with the weird. So, what is the weird? And I'm hoping that this stream will be a quick one. So let's zoom forward a little. The weird. The term weird, in Old Norse pronounced weird, how weird is that, is often simply translated as fate, but its true meaning is that which is becoming or casualty in time. It is the present day weaving of destiny, but directly upon the foundation of Orlog. So how do I put this into perspective? Let's find an analogy. Let me take a drink. All right, we'll use the YouTube thing, all right? So if you look down, you put your cursor over the little bar there for the time thing. In most videos, you see, like say you were just watching it straight and you couldn't really change anything and it just had to play its thing. All of that red bar, that is your Orlog. Your weird is the dot and all the gray stuff. I'm going like this, which probably makes it look like it's going backwards. So I guess that way for you guys, but for me it's that way. Anyways, so the gray and the dot are your weird. It is yet to happen and it is currently happening. The red is already happened. You can't go back and you can't fix it. You can't change it. That's your Orlog. That's a basis of the whole principle. Very abstract. It was the best way that I was taught how to look at it, and it makes sense to me. So hopefully it makes sense to y'all. So that's those two down. So I'm trying to speed through this because I'm really tired. So this one's probably not going to be the best lesson, but everything again is in here, so you can do the reading. If you don't want to read it, download the document or take the URL link. Actually, download the document or copy the document and throw it into 11 Reader or some other AI program that'll read it back to you, and you can just listen to it kind of like an audiobook. It's one of my favorite things to do nowadays. So we're going to go to the Well of Urðr. I don't know if I want to do that or if I want to do the Norns, because the Norns are the ones who actually like weave all of this. So here, all right. So interaction with the Norns in the well. The Nornir or Norns are the weavers of Wyrd. So they weave all of this stuff together. Stationed at the Well of Urðr, which holds the Orlog. So the Orlog is within inside the well, and all the Norns are around it. Anyways, they are particularly drawn to the substance of the past and spin it into the thread of the present. Urðr, which is one of the Norns, she is known as the past, right? The Norn who represents the fixed Orlog itself. Verðandi, the becoming. The Norn who represents the active, unfolding moment of Wyrd, the point of choice. So, Urðr is the red bar. Verðandi is the dot. And Wyrd is the, Wyrd is the weaving. Anyways, Skuld, the debt, the future, the Norn who represents the consequences of Wyrd, the debt or reward that immediately begins to solidify into future Orlog. So that's the gray bar, if that makes sense. Work is not a rigid decree, but a conscious process of drawing, measuring, and cutting the threads according to the underlying laws of Orlog. Is he really that rough, bud? My boy's having a rough day. He's got 2 naps in today. Could you imagine? It's so rough. Where are you going? He thinks it's funny. He loves his kitty. You're gonna go that way. Anyways, sorry, distractions. It's fine. He's cute. The Wyrd is the very area where free will and fate meet. Your power, your choices do not change the past, Orlog, but they decisively change the present trajectory, Wyrd, and the future foundation of your Orlog descendants. Or Orlog of your descendants. So what you do today impacts your kids. It impacts your grandkids. It impacts your great-grandkids. So pay attention. You only got 1 nap today? You got a nap? Hey, let's give a huge shout out to my team leader in Buhurt. He is doing a pro fight right now. I don't have a link for it, so too bad, so sad, guys. You don't get to watch it, but my wife's going to watch it, and she's going to cheer on Kyle. He's doing MMA and steel. Woo! Go Kyle! So, hopefully he wins his thing. I'll defer to her, to the outcome of it. I don't know. I'm trying to do a lesson and I get distracted. Consequences. Unlike Orlog, Wyrd can be influenced, redeemed, or made worse in the immediate moment. Every action of courage can change your Wyrd, just as every moment of sloth can tighten a negative thread established by your Orlog. The goal is to work your Wyrd, to weave it, to shape destiny consciously and well. Oh, okay. My brain can read right now, right, guys? In summary, Wyrd is the dynamic unfolding of destiny in the present where your choices interact with the immutable conditions of the past to create the future. So, I know I only have one person in here so far. Does any of this make sense, or is it really confusing? Do I need to go into more detail about it? Let me use that opportunity to take a drink. And while I do that, I'm going to skip ahead to, we're going to do some a little bit backwards. Working weird, we don't want to do that one yet. I want to, why is that in the middle of this? Huh. Oh, that's connection to lesson 2. Duh. You think you're following. What do you think that you might not follow? Or is there anything that you might be a little bit confused on? Because that is what I want to know. Because this is a very abstract concept, and it's very hard for us modern day people to grasp this concept. I even struggle with it, so this is going to be a very complicated one. I really want to get to next week because that's lesson 4. Everybody needs to be here for lesson 4, even though it's a holiday weekend. What is it? Why does it exist? Is that all I put for talking about the Norns? Because that's like bullcrap. I should have really focused more on the Norns. The Norns are pretty important. Yeah, that's literally all I put about the Norns. Awkward. Well, I'm glad that the YouTube barb was a great analogy because, yeah, for me, it did not click in my brain of Orlog and Wyrd and weaving all of that stuff until I put it into the YouTube barb. I'm like, that's a visual thing that I can actually see and understand. Because if you're stuck, I know we can physically go back and rewind it and re-see it again. But if you physically couldn't, like say you're stuck at a store and it's playing and you see it and you can't go across the other side of the glass. Kind of like us in the 90s when we played video games, like the N64 at Target, and you couldn't touch it. Yeah, whatever. I think you all get it. All right, I'm going to just move a little farther on. The Wyrd network, the interconnected web. That actually comes up here, the memory part. I use Helgi and Mini. So, matter of fact, I think we're almost to that part. Next page? Or next page? I know it was in one of these. Next page, memory. Okay, anyways, we'll get to that. The Wyrd network, the interconnected web. The Norse understanding of fate is fundamentally communal. Your Wyrd does not exist in isolation, as in it doesn't exist with just you. It is a single vibrating thread woven into a tapestry. The Wyrd net, or Wyrd's web, that connects every single thing into existence. So you might have your own web. This is going to be hard to do. You might have your own, let's do that one. You might have your own web, right? But whatever you do, see how it touches that one. Okay, so this one touches that one, which touches this one. They all vibrate. But then those ones vibrate the other ones, and eventually all the webs are vibrating because this mother liquor, or this one, whatever. You get the point. Terrible analogy. Well, it probably isn't. But basically, like a guitar string. Like if you've ever played a guitar, and sometimes you hit a string, but if you're not careful and you mute the other strings, because say you want to, bass is really good for this because you want to mute all the other strings if you're trying to play one, so that it doesn't vibrate the other ones just by the energy alone, because then you start picking up the sound of the other ones. Well, Wyrd literally impacts those other ones, and you can't stop that from happening. It's just going to happen. So, anyways, what is it and why does it exist? The Wyrd web is the comprehensive spiritual and material network of casualty. It is the single continuous weave of all Wyrd threads spinning in the 9 worlds. It exists because the universe is not a collection of individual parts, but a single interdependent organism rooted in Yggdrasil. Every action creates a ripple. The network ensures that all beings are held accountable to the consequences of their actions. Binding gods, humans, giants, and the Landvetter together under the same law of cause and effect. So everything works together. If, say, the trees didn't do their part, we wouldn't breathe air. Neither would all the other animals that need oxygen. Everyone would die. That would be bad. All right. Anyways. How does it function and what is its impact? The network functions like a vast loom where every being's thread is intertwined with the threads of their family, community, and environment. Ripple effect. When you make a conscious choice, Hugger in action, or Hugin action, whichever you so choose, you pull on your own thread, like you're pulling that bass string, right? This pull causes vibrations that immediately affects every adjacent thread. For instance, a brave act of defense strengthens your weird of your clan, while a moment of betrayal weakens the weird of everyone connected to you, so they no longer trust you. Or, if you are thought to be, I'm holding in the shield wall, and then you run away from the shield wall, now there's a gap. Well, the two guys that were right next to you, they're probably going to die because you're a dumbass. And you shouldn't have been in the fight. Stay home if you ain't going to play. Anyways, communal destiny. Your personal weird is inseparable from the weird of your family and clan. The combined strength of their humming out provides momentum for your thread, just as their spiritual debt adds weight to yours. You do not only inherit Orlog, you actively share weird. This is back where I was kind of going back about that family trust thing. So, your great-grandpa, let's use my great-grandfather. He started off poor, and, he got into a job, and then he became a banker, and he learned about investing. So, and he was just a little teller at the bank, bottom of the bottom, right? And he learned about this stuff, and he got really interested in how banking worked, and he got in there, and he started doing stuff, and then he learned about investing. And then he started investing in things left and right, making really good decisions because he had a lot of guidance. Well, he made a ton of money. And so with that, he ended up being very well off. He then created a trust so when he passed on, my grandfather would have a plenty of money. So he would be taken care of, my grandmother would be taken care of, my mother and my aunt, as they were kids, would be taken care of. He created a good Orlog of fortune for the family. So they had something to work with. My grandfather and my grandmother, when they passed on, which unfortunately, my grandmother, she was the last one remaining, she passed on about a month ago. And today was a very interesting day because not only did we have a baby shower, we also had a church service for her. Yes, I say church. She was a Christian, so she's going to have a Christian service, which I'm fine with. It's her spiritual choice. Anyways, so now that she's passed away, that fortune Orlog is now going to get passed to my mother and my aunt. I'm not trying to go too much into detail, so there's that. And if there's anything left by the time it gets to, say, my mother and my stepfather pass away, that will get spread to my brother, sister, and I. If there is anything left, because I don't know if there will be. Usually it kind of peters off after a couple generations. So, and I'm not really sure where it's at, nor do I care, because I'm doing what I need to do to survive. Anyways, so that's your inheritance of Orlog, or an example of inherited Orlog that kind of goes with Hamingja and the Fjölga thing. That's like that trust fund baby analogy I used, if that makes sense. See where I'm at. Honor and integrity. The primary impact of understanding the weird network is the overwhelming emphasis it places on ethical action and honor, because your choices have immediate, measurable spiritual consequences for your community and descendants. Action must be guided by the duty of, in many, memory of ancestral standards, not just individual desire. Does that make sense? Should I go into that one a little? I think I should go into that one a little bit more. So, your action must be guided by duty. So when, say, you join the military, you have a set of ethoses that you need to follow. Those are part of your duty. And like my favorite one is called integrity, doing the right thing when nobody else is looking, because that really impacts a lot of things around you. So that's like guided by your duty and your memory of ancestors' standards. So if my ancestors had a standard saying, hey, you see the old woman trying to cross the street, you go over there and you help her across the street. Well, if I wanted to start destroying things in civilization, I'd like, nah, old lady can do it by herself. I don't care that there's black ice all the way across it. She'll be fine. I don't care. Not my problem. Well, then society starts to break down because nobody cares about each other. But my ancestors cared, and they had a good society. Let's keep that good society going by doing the actions that they would do. Does that make sense? I hope so. I'm going to ask that question a lot. So, anyways, interaction with the landvader and the environment. The Wyrd network extends far beyond human society, binding the fate of people to the fate of the land itself. Let's go over that again. The Wyrd network extends far beyond human society. It binds the fate of people to the fate of the land itself. It's interesting to think on how duty/tradition changes for the better and worse over time, and that changes how the Wyrd interacts. I mean, it is really interesting. Like, slowly, especially the modern generation, things have gotten more progressive and progressive and progressive, and things have gotten more and more relaxed. But we've also gotten more and more and more chaos. And the tensions are getting really hot. Anyways, I'm not going to go too far into that. I really hate doing politics and spirituality. I know what you just said wasn't that, but I'm going to stay away from that. Anyways, but I see what you're saying. The Wyrd network extends far beyond human society, binding the fate of people to the fate of the land itself. So say, hey, we're going to set up a community, but we have all this trash. We're going to set the trash over here and not really care about it, or we'll just throw it on the ground. Eventually, you throw so much trash around because you're a human society that builds up a bunch of trash, it starts poisoning stuff like, say, your well water. Now, your well water is bad. Now you get sick, and it starts impacting the community. Y'all messed up. You didn't weave your Wyrd right. You caused bad Orlog, and now y'all suffering the consequences in the current state of Wyrd because you were dumb. Got it? Okay. Consequences. The landvetter may respond by withdrawing their favor, leading to crop failure, poor weather, and lack of spiritual success. Conversely, respecting the land and acting with honor strengthens the Wyrd shared between human and spirit, fostering abundance. So you had all that trash. Maybe a lot of it was, say, I don't know, like paper material. Take that, you burn it, turn it into ash, you throw it into your crops. Ash is really good for the soil. The other stuff, let's say plastic, it's better to high volume incinerate that so you don't have any toxic chemicals that come out, so everything's like gone. But throwing that into the ground with your crops, probably not going to do very well. It's probably going to kill your crops, not to mention all the microplastics that'll get absorbed, and then you eat the corn or whatever, and now you have it just becomes a mess. That's bad Orlog. Anyways, so learn to balance it, take care of the land. Building shared Orlog. Through the Wyrd network, the choices of the present are collaborative, creating the deep Orlog of the future. The cumulative effect of the clan's sustained integrity creates a powerful, positive foundation for the future generations, a lasting, favorable spiritual inheritance. In summary, the Wyrd network is the living tapestry that makes destiny a communal, ethical, and environmental responsibility, where every individual action reverberates throughout the entire world. It says cosmos, but whatever. I feel like I had that word used too much. We following so far? Okay, probably are. Anyways, part 4. Connection to the integrated self. Back to lesson 2. This is where we're going to get into that mini part you were talking about, memory. The 8 components of the soul, Draupnir rings, or the Draupnir rings, are not just a descriptive consciousness, they are the spiritual tools you possess for actively engaging and shaping your Wyrd with the massive cosmic network. Yeah. You need a whole strong self to navigate destiny. So everything within you needs to be, you need to strengthen it. You need to be in balance with it so that you can do a healthy interaction with everything around you. I think that's pretty straightforward. What is it and why does it exist? The connection is the philosophical bridge between personal spiritual architecture, lesson 2, and the cosmic casualty, lesson 3, which we're currently in. It exists because action requires agency. To consciously influence the thread of Wyrd, you cannot be a fragmented self. You must leverage the distinct power of each component. So, like I was saying, like you can't have one part that's really strong and another part that's really weak. It's just not going to work out. You're going to be a little wonky. It's like, I have one really good running leg and one really weak one. You think I'm going to be able to run and participate in the Olympics? No, I'm going to be like, Peg Leg John over there from the Pirates. Probably not a good idea. That was probably a terrible analogy. It's supposed to be funny. The Draupnir analogy holds here. The original ring, Draupnir, the whole self, is what pulls the threads of the Wyrd network. The 8 resulting rings are the specialized strengths used for this work. How does it function, and what is its impact? Each part of the self plays a unique and necessary role in how a person interacts with the weight of Orlog and the unfolding of Wyrd. So now we're going to go into the parts that we talked about in the last couple lessons. Hugh, or Hugr. I'm going to do that every friggin' time for some reason. Thought consciousness. This is the part that perceives the pattern. It grants the clarity to see where your Wyrd thread is headed and allows you to pause and choose an honorable, deliberate action rather than simply reacting blindly to the pull of Orlog's inertia. It's that stop, think, use logic, don't be emotional. Because if you're emotional, you're not using your Hugh, you're using your Urðr. Wrong part to use for the logical part, right? Let's go into the memory part. Memory. This functions as your Orlog reader. It provides access to the ancestral and personal past, ensuring you understand the fixed foundation you are working with. You cannot work your Wyrd wisely if you are ignorant of the Orlog that shapes your current situation. So you can't make good decisions to better your life if you don't understand what got you to the point where you're at and what got your family to the point where you're at. This is one of those things where if you're growing up, you see your parents doing something bad, you're like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to not do that when I'm older because that's bad. That leads to bad things. That's you paying attention to the Ancestral Órlog. And you're like, I want to change it. You're going the other direction. Yay! It was super simple. Humming out, luck, fortune. This is the spiritual capital you apply to the thread. Let me get back to this. So this is like your dinero, the whole trust fund thing. This is the spiritual capital you apply to the thread. A strong, well-maintained haminga provides the momentum and advantage needed to make a pivotal choice that successfully shifts to a heavy line of Wyrd. Pretty much solidifies it. If you do really well, you can create good luck. You can pass that good luck on. Then your next generation will do better. So this is a concept that I've said in more simple terms constantly to my family, specifically my parents, to where I have this thought process of you always want to leave the next generation better off than where you're currently at, because then they are set up better to succeed. Their Orlog is set better so that they can weave a better Wyrd for the future. And they can pass that Orlog to their kids. Follow? Push? Cool. All right. Urðr, frenzy, inspiration. This is the force of change. It provides the sudden, inspired insight and emotional power. See, I told you, this is the emotional reaction. Needed to cut or dramatically reknot a thread of Wyrd. It is the burst of courage that overcomes the paralyzing weight of Orlog. So you can do some drastic things, and it can either go in a good direction or it could do a bad direction. Maybe you're at a police stop, right? You got pulled over. Maybe you didn't do anything wrong, but you have a high anxiety of police officers. This could go one of two ways. You could try to calm yourself down and be like, it'll be okay, behave yourself because you've done nothing wrong, and it'll go okay. Or you could allow the emotional reaction, and you could freak the heck out, and you're gonna go the other direction, and you're gonna have a bad day, which is gonna cause a bad day for everything else. Kaboosh, kaboosh. Hi, honey, how'd it go? Yeah, yeah, go Kyle.
That guy got his ass fucking handed to him.
Handed, probably steeled with some steel. Congratulations, Kyle. Good job, Kyle. You probably won't ever see this, but congratulations, Kyle. Good job. You want more fight? Later. Okay. Let's all cheer on Kyle. Local Montanan. Good dude. Anyways, continuing on to your hammer. We're actually going to go over two things here. Your hammer, form, and leak. I don't want to say light because I'm going to give you guys the wrong word. It's leak, right? Hammer and leak, the body. These ensure your actions are grounded. Spiritual change must manifest in the material world. A shift in Wyrd must be made real, though the bodies, let me slow that down. A shift in Wyrd must be made. This 23 hours of no sleep is really getting to me. All right, try it again. These ensure that your actions are grounded. Spiritual change must manifest in the material world. A shift in Wyrd must be made real through the body's physical deed and recognized through the perception of your hammer. So this is where you are making the action. You are doing the physical choice to either run from that officer or hand the officer all of your documentation. And what the officer sees, they're either going to see a person who's like a little nervous, but being an okay citizen because they can physically see the shape of your body, or they can see somebody being aggressive and running the hell away and being a problem. I'm hoping that this officer analogy is really helpful for this. Because there are some people in my friend community that really have bad anxiety around officers. But what they do really impacts their future. This is actually the last page. Cool. Interactions with the Wyrd web. The ultimate impact is that a person with a fragmented self is merely a passive participant in destiny, tossed about the Wyrd of others. So, if you're not strong with all the parts, you're just kind of going to go along with the flow. What somebody else does is going to impact what happens to you, and vice versa. Really, if whatever you do impacts their life. So if you have a roommate who's just kind of floating along, not really pushing his weight, it's going to negatively impact the other person, but the other person's going to have to pick up the bootstraps and do more around the place so that it doesn't turn into a pigsty, which then emotionally makes the other roommate kind of sour and salty towards you, right? Tossed around by the Wyrd of others. A person who has integrated all 8 parts becomes an active weaver, capable of honoring the ancestors by acting with honor. The integrated self adds positive layers to the Orlog that will support future generations. Kind of gone over this. Do good stuff. Build up a good Orlog so that you can pass that Orlog on to your next generation and they can have a better life. Like, say, I don't know, work your ass off, get a house, pay that house off, and then when you're about to croak, you'd be like, hey, son, I'm going to put this into a trust, right? Put it into a trust. Do that. Don't just be like, I'm going to just hand it to you because they don't want the taxes on that thing. I promise you. Because it changes the value of the taxes and it's terrible. Anyways, so you go, you get that house, you pay it all off, and you be like, put it into a trust. Hey, I'm passing this down to you. Now your ass doesn't have to do what I had to do, so you're better off and you can save more money. Now, instead of paying that mortgage, you just pay the land tax, and then you can take your spare money and either save to buy a better house, to sell that house, build a better fortune, save to buy a better house, to sell that house, build a better fortune, that you can then pass to your next kid, and just hopefully everybody keeps building it up. But eventually you will get to a generation that doesn't appreciate, doesn't understand, because the memory of the ancestors will get forgotten at some point, and they're going to be like, I'm going to crap all over this because I'm an entitled little bag. We had those a lot. Anyways, probably went on a tangent there. Harmonizing with the land. Presenting a whole, spiritually complete self allows for respectful, powerful interaction with the Landvittir, ensuring the shared weird of the community and the environment may remain strong. This is that give and take of your environment, making sure you take care of the land and the land will take care of you. It's that balance. Yeah? Just, the yin and the yang. In summary, the integrated self is the operational vehicle for working your destiny. The parts of your soul are not merely philosophical concepts, they are the active levers that allow you, or me, to consciously create your weird within the confines of your Orlog. Conclusion, right? Conclusion part. This is where we get to the end, and I'm going to be like, hey, anybody who has anything they want to say, go ahead and say it. So I probably skipped over a page or two. I might just go back. Maybe we'll hold off on the conclusion. Because I still have 14 minutes left. Yeah, let's go over that, because I was kind of annoyed that I was like, I kind of skipped over like the Norns and everything. So I'm going to go over that, because that's kind of important. Interaction with the Norns and Wyrd. Orlog's connection to the Nornir and at the Well of Urðr is pivotal. The well itself is often seen as the physical manifestation of Orlog, a deep, dark pool holding all of the past. The Nornir, or Norns, are not arbitrary fate givers. Why was that hard for me to read? Anyways, they are the interpreters and maintainer of the Orlog. They perpetually draw the substance from the well and weave it into the weird. I really should have actually read this page a lot sooner. I'm going to give it a little more context. Ken, you're doing this poorly. I might change these to Sundays so I'm not so tired, because I had to work all night last night to go into this, and then I had a funeral thing to do, and then we had a baby shower to do, and we were supposed to go grocery shopping, but we didn't because we didn't have enough time. Yeah, my wife understands. She's like, we have so much to do today, and we don't know how to do it all. Anyways, let me re-get to that. The Nornir are not arbitrary fate givers. They are interpreters and maintainers of Orlog. They perpetually weave it into weird. We already did that. They ensure that the fixed conditions of the past are... I'll just read the whole damn thing over again, because that was confusing. Skipping. The Nornir are not arbitrary fate givers. They are the interpreters and maintainers of Orlog. They perpetually draw the substance from the well and weave it into the weird, the pattern of the present. They ensure that the fixed connections of the past are accurately reflected in the unfolding casualty of the present. The only way to impact Orlog is through continuous conscious shaping of your weird. In the present, every conscious choice you make, every act of Huger thought, and inspiration of Urðr, your frenzy or emotions, creates a brand new layer of spiritual and historical consequence. This new layer will eventually sink down and solidify, becoming the Orlog of the next generation. This mechanism is the bedrock of the Norse spiritual responsibility. You are building the destiny of the future. In summary, the Orlog is the ultimate weight of history, the law that governs the structure of destiny. It is the unchangeable is that dictates the conditions of the becoming. Good. I'm glad Sundays work for you. All right. To summarize this page. So say you're in a desert, right? And you got a bunch of sand, bunch of sand, and you got books. And each book represents, go back 12 books. So that's 12 generations. And they have all of their information. It's a big, long story. It's a continuous story. Take that book and they set it in the sand. And that's the base of the stack. And then you start stacking it. And again, each one's a different generation that's creating a new Orlog. So it's just stacking that Orlog. The weight of that eventually starts sinking down into the sand, becoming very permanent, right? But whether they keep solid, going straight up, because they're doing good actions, they're making sure that they maintain doing the same positive things that the generation before them, or if maybe they shift a little bit, and the next generation a little bit, and a little bit, eventually that stack of books is going to fall over, and it's going to just destroy all of the process that those bottom books tried to create as a foundation. And that top book is now a bottom book, and you have to rebuild that back up. Somebody does. Somebody in the generation has to. Does that work? Is that I wonder if that works. That was kind of a crazy one to try to do. I wonder if that makes sense. I do really like the analogy of the books being the individual person, because then you have chapters. Those chapters could be every year of your life, right? And each chapter tells 1 year story. And then, you have however many chapters that you are old. I like books as the analogy. No. All right. Yep, we already did that. So we'll just go to the conclusion part. All right. Conclusion. Working your weird. This lesson has moved us from the architecture of the self to the laws of cosmos. The crucial takeaway is the dynamic relationship between the fixed past and the creative present. This lesson establishes that the Orlog is an immutable law, the accumulated debt and inheritance of all ancestral and personal actions. It is the unchangeable foundation that sets the boundaries of your life. Upon this foundation, Wyrd is continuously woven. It's constantly going, it's constantly moving, the Norns are doing their thing, you're doing your thing, you're making new strings that are affecting other people's strings. The Wyrd is the active unfolding destiny, the point where free will and fate collide. Since all threads of Wyrd are interconnected and the Wyrd network, your every ethical choice affects your community, your descendants, and the Landvettir. Not just your ethical choice, but your unethical choices, right? I guess that's technically an ethic, whether it's positive or negative. Ultimately, to be a conscious spiritual being in the Norse cosmos is to work your Wyrd. This means using your integrated self, all 8 components of the Dropnir ring, to read the Orlog using Minnie and Huger to understand your starting position, act with honor, leveraging Haminga and Older to consciously shift the threads of your Wyrd for the better. Build a strong future Orlog for your line through conscious, deliberate actions. Make the next generation better than the last. That's pretty much what it is. Any comments, questions, yada, yada, yada? I swear I'll get better at not needing this. Notice any similarities with anything else, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. We had a pretty small viewership this time, but that's okay. People were busy. I do want to give a huge shout out to Jason Savage for helping create the Discord. That is, again, in the description below. Him and some other people building that community, just trying to get other people that follow similar paths of Norse paganism all together. Oh, my kid's funny. He just tripped himself over his bed and he's laughing. Oh, my kid's funny. He just tripped himself over his bed and he's laughing his butt off. Anyways, and then he's playing with goldfish. Anyways, he has a Discord for How to Heathen. He has his own YouTube channels or channel, I should say, and he pretty much tries to teach people how to do modern heathenry from his perspective in today. So, all right. No, I think I've been able to internalize it. I've put it into context of compound weaving and the quality of material you're weaving with. Too much to type. Yeah, see, that's the thing with this one. This is why I was a little nervous to do it, but I had to do it before we get into more stuff, because it was directly related to the stuff we just talked about in the last 2 lessons. but it's really abstract, and for a lot of people, it can be really hard to grab the concept of until they put it into their own thought process, the way that their brain can figure it out, because this is not a typical way that society likes to view things. It's almost kind of like karma. Think about it. Kind of. Anyways. But if that is that, what time do you think, what's next? Saturday or Sunday? You are welcome. I will do an outro song, but give me a second to figure out dates and times and blah, blah, blah. On Saturday, we will probably do this on Sunday because I'm going to move these to Sundays because I am tired of being tired because work all day, go to Boo Hurt, sitting in armor, slashing about, and then come and do this on top of like grocery shopping. It's really exhausting, and I can't really focus on you guys and teach you correctly. But yes, look, lesson 4, it is coming up. Also, if you want to get ahead on any of the lessons, any of them, they are at my YouTube channel. There's songs about them. The album Prophecy, it goes the first 3 songs are the first 3 lessons. Then you have a breakup song that has nothing to do with the lessons. It's just a fun song to break it up. And then you got another 3 songs that are part of the lessons. They touch on the topics. They give you baseline understanding of what's going to go on. And then another breakup song. And then there's another 3 lessons. And then a breakup song. We're not breaking up. It's just something to... So you're not just hitting lesson, and overwhelming yourself. You have a fun song in the middle. Somewhere along the line. I'm working on another one. I think it will be... I was going to stop my semester at 9 lessons. But I decided to gather all 9 and create a concept. I wrote a thesis on a modern interpretation of Heimdall, and I'm really excited to share it. And so that will probably be lesson 10. It is now a academically accepted concept. It is my idea of a concept that works with all of the stuff that happens in the next set of lessons. Anyways, so Sunday, probably about what, 6? Would that work?
Probably
later. Later than 6? All right, 7. All right. Next Sunday at 7. That's later. We'll go into lesson 4. I almost put up 8 fingers. And y'all are going to have your minds blown, and you're going to be like, holy cow. Anyways, so with that, I'm going to go back and let y'all listen to the final song, and see y'all next week. Skál.
Know the 8 rings of Draupnir now. Look past your skin and see the law. The heavy hammer and the shining thread. The Nornir are near. So let the music ring.
To the well where Urðr sits deep, the old law of ages that the still waters keep. This fixed Orlog is the stone in the ground, the dead of your fathers, the fate that is bound. It shapes your first breath, your pain and your prize, the fate that is set that you can't disguise.
The times the lose far, the sun finds its height. The present is active, the moment of light. The Nornir are weaving their fingers so quick. The thread of the moment, the fate you can pick.
This flow is the Wyrd, the chance to create, to choose what you build on the ground of your fate. Use your hooker to watch where the pattern will fall and answer the great universal call. So stand up, my heroes, and master the art. For every small action will dare or impart. You work out your Wyrd, you stand in the present. The choices you make are the gift of the peasant with Haminya's fortune and old as clear fire. You build up the future or burn on the pie. The Orlog is the limit, the Wyrd is the race. Go forth with your soul and determine your place. The to spin, to pierce through the darkness and let the light in. Your future will guide, your spirit will know the wisdom to act, the seed that will grow. You must be the whole self, you cannot be small. You must be complete, you must answer the call. Your action today makes a layer that's new. The Orlog of tomorrow depends upon you.
Remember the Wyrd's web spreads far and wide. Your thread touches others, there's nowhere to hide. It binds human fate to the spirits of home, to the land fedder's favor wherever you roam. So live with true honor, let no weakness be shown, for the debt of your action is never your own. If you break sacred promise, the web will lament. If you keep it with strength, the cosmos is descent.
So stand up, my heroes, and master the art. For every small action will tear or impart. You work out your weird, you stand in the present. The choices you make are the gift of the peasant. With dreaming, yes, fortune, and all this clear fire, you build up the future will burn on the fire. The Orlog is the limit, the weird is the race. Go forth with your soul and determine your place. The well keeps the past, the loom keeps the motion. You are the sailor upon the deep ocean, the fixed and the flowing, forever they bind the fate of all folk and the path of mankind.